Hey everybody. So I hopped on Reddit a couple days ago and I started seeing a lot of posts. I'm assuming it's because final season is upon us, but I started seeing a lot of posts with regards to how to create a pen clicker cut, is what I'm going to call it. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show both how to do the jagged pen clicker cut and then different options for that cut, as well as the wavy 3D cut, so we can get them both out of the way and people can understand how to use and manipulate both of those. So let's jump right in. We're going to start on the jagged version first. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to think about your design intent. Now, with regards to design intent, what I'm saying is you want to determine whether the cut that's going to be on top is going to be flat going inward towards the center, or is it going to be on an angle stemming from a plane lower than this top surface and then angling out. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate it with top angling out. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to create reference geometry in a plane. Go ahead and click that top plane and then offset it however, for the sake of this example, however you want. At this point, we're just trying to figure out where we want to have the planes allocated for the cuts to actually happen properly. So the next thing that we want to do is click on that plane and create a sketch. What we want to do then also is we want to go ahead and convert the entity here, which is the top cylinder. And then with that top cylinder, we want to go ahead and inscribe a polygon. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that, click the center, and then pull out to the edge of said circle. Now, what I'm going to do also is I'm going to make this into a construction line so it's not affected by anything else. Now, I do want to somewhat define this, so I'm going to extend a center line from the center out to here, and then you can choose vertical or horizontal, really doesn't matter. What we're going to use this for is to determine the angle of the next cut, because it's going to have to be alternating. So go ahead and exit the sketch at that point. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click on that top plane, since that's where we want the sketch or the cut to end up, and create a sketch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to convert that top circle also, and then we're going to inscribe a polygon as well. Same way we did the other one. Right click, change the construction geometry on that, and then hit Control 5 for the top plane, top view. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create that center line from the edge to the center. And then in this case, this polygon has 6 sides, so you want to make sure that it's attached coincidentally to that circle. But since it has 6 sides, what we want to do is make sure that we get it in the middle of these 2 other points. So that's very simple. What we're going to do is create an angle here. We're going to put in parentheses 360 degrees divided by the number of sides divided by 2. That'll get us exactly where we need to be. Exit the sketch. You can hide the plane. We probably won't need it for the next few parts. But as you can see, what we have now is 2 sketches alternating on 2 different planes. And the question that everybody was asking is, how do I get this cut to actually cut in a jagged way outside of the cylinder? So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to create a 3D sketch. So go to sketch, make sure you pull down, hit 3D sketch, and what we're going to do is draw lines that go from each point to the next. So click, 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 spin, make sure we get all of them. And as you can see, they're being defined as we do this. So you don't have to do any more definition. You don't have to add any dimensions. They are all located on the outside edge of the cylinder. Okay. So now that we've connected all of those, go ahead and exit that sketch. Now, this is the part that's kind of critical when it comes to making the cut. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a surface here. I'm going to go to surfaces. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do the surface, we're going to go ahead and sketch on the plane that we hid. So plane, sketch, and we're going to add a point to the center. Okay, now that point is going to act as our lofting sketch. So what we're going to do is we're going to select sketch 9, which is that point we just created, go to lofted surface, and then we're going to select it within the profiles, and then we're going to go select the 3D sketch. And as you can see, it creates the loft with no problem. It's a surface. Everything's great. Now, the question or the issue that everybody's running into is, how am I going to cut this? So there's several ways of doing that. One way we can do it is by doing a split in the part. And how you do that is you go Insert, Features, Split. Trim tool is going to be your surface that you just created. Then you cut the bodies. Now, as you can see, you get an error because of the fact that this surface doesn't extend beyond the bounds of the cylinder. This is going to happen no matter what technique you use. The other one that I was going to suggest was cut with surface. And if you go ahead and click on the surface and try to cut it, you're going to get an error saying that it failed due to geometric condition, because the loft that we created is literally butting up against but not outside of the surface of the cylinder. So what we want to do is you want to right click on that surface, hit isolate, and then what we're going to do is hit extend surface, right click on this, any of them, hit select open loop. I'm just going to give it 100 thou so that it's outside of the surface of the cylinder. Exit isolate. And then we can try it again. So first off, we'll do the split tool. So features, split. Trim tool is going to be that surface. Cut the bodies. So now we have two bodies. A tip within a tip here is, if you want to save the bodies out into separate part files, then you go ahead and hit auto assign titles, and then you can rename the part files after. Or if you just click the bodies that you actually want to take and create, and then hit the check mark, it'll contain them within the part that you're actually working on. So fun fact to know and tell. The reason I would do split is because it gives me the exact mating part to this cutout, and then you can hide the surface and have two different parts if you wanted to work on the mechanism that actually works in the clicker pen, which I believe is the assignment most people were given for this. But if you use that, then you can literally take this part and create the top portion of the clicker pen to it, and it'll mate exactly to this one. That'll help you just because of the fact that it'll be less work. Now, I'm going to go ahead and delete that split and show you the other way of doing it, which is cut with surface. So if you cut with surface, same concept, hit that surface, reverse the direction to make sure that it's going upward, and then you lose the second part, but you have a clean cut, and now you can see that you have that surface done. So you have the clicker pen cut out done that way. Now, with that in mind, as you can see, mine is the version that has the angular top, and it extends down to the center of the lower plane. All you have to do the opposite is you literally take this plane on top and then make the point that it's going to extend down to from this top plane, and then send it out on an angle to the bottom second plane. So it's basically just reversing the two planes that we used. Not very difficult. So that's how we do the jagged cut, and then we can hide all the sketches, the reference geometry, so you can see how that looks. So the cuts down here on the bottom plane are straight, and the cuts up here are angular. So this is how you complete the jagged version of it. Next, we're going to move on to the curved version of it. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and do that wave cut. So the principle is the same as far as starting it. You have the two planes with the alternating edges and the sketches that are inscribed in the circles. And what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and, instead of doing a 3D sketch, we're going to use those points with a curve through reference points, and that's under the curves tool here under surfaces. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then I want to point out, I'm taking off closed curve so you can see how this works. So if you start clicking on all the points, it'll start creating a curve, a continuous curve through. Just keep clicking along here. And obviously at the end of this, we are going to want the closed curve, but I want to make sure that we get through this first. So we'll go ahead and click. And on the last one, we'll go ahead and hit close curve. And then it'll close the wave that we're looking for. And then now we have the wave. So this is a closed curve, which will allow us to create the wave. Now we can't do it the same way that we did the other sketch because the geometry will fail from the center. So we're going to do it a little differently here. We're going to go ahead and hide the sketches for the plane and the original points. We're going to keep the sketch 9, which is the point that we used for the previous cuts, and we're going to go ahead and select the front plane. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a line and we're going to do a center line from that point all the way up to the edge of the previous jagged drawing. Now also this will show up in this original top plane sketch, but depending on how you decide to design this, you can use either the jagged sketch or you can use the original hexagonal sketch. So we'll go ahead and exit here. Okay, what we're going to do next is we're going to create another sketch on that same plane, so front plane, and we're going to convert that center line to a solid line because we want it to follow the edge of that. And as I said previously, it won't work if we send it from the middle because of the geometry constraints. So we're going to go ahead and take this out and make sure that the path is outside of the cylinder, but also not too far in. Otherwise, it's going to go into a straight line, and that's going to cause problems. And I'll show you in a second why I said that. So go ahead and exit the sketch. We'll go ahead into surfaces, and what we're going to do is a swept surface. So the profile that we're looking for is this sketch, so sketch 15. And then the path that we want it to follow is obviously the curve. And as you can see, this creates a nice smooth curve that goes all the way through, all the way around. And if you notice, it's starting to bunch up here in the center. Since it's emanating from the center of the piece, it's going to do that. And if we pulled this in even more, it would start creasing, and that's where the geometry overlaps. So it would make it really difficult for SolidWorks to process what that surface would look like if we were trying to do a loft. Let's go ahead and click OK. And again, just like with the previous example, all we have to do is either hit cut with surface or use the trim tool. I'll do cut with surface since we used the trim tool on the previous one. Grab that, go ahead and go here, right click on the surface to hide it, and then go ahead and hide all your sketches in the feature tree, including the curve. And there we go. We have our 3D wave cut. Okay, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. Please like and subscribe for future videos, and I'll keep hopping on Reddit and see what other questions everybody has to answer that I can answer through these videos. Thanks. Cheers.